The premise of the Griffin Incident, the new episode of Star Trek Strange New Worlds, is elegant in its simplicity. A shuttle crew consisting of La'an, Spock, and James T. Kirk, making his first appearance this season, stumbles upon the Griffin, a Starfleet vessel that vanished years earlier, under circumstances nobody has been able to explain. What follows is the darkest, most explicitly horror-inflected episode this series has ever produced. Directed by Axel Carolyn and written by Robbie Thompson, both of whom bring genuine genre pedigree to material that fully commits to dread rather than merely gesturing at it. What makes this episode work is how precisely it calibrates its hauntings to each character's specific psychology. Kirk is tormented by visions of his son David, a devastating touch for anyone who knows where this character's story eventually leads. Watching a man desperately trying to be present for a child when we know that ultimately he will fail. Spock is confronted by his former fiancée T'Pring, who insists his humanity is his greatest strength before methodically removing every physical marker of his Vulcan heritage. A horror sequence executed with a queasy specificity that earns its shock value rather than simply deploying it. And La'an is stalked by Rose Harper, the Griffin's former chief security officer, who insists, with escalating intimacy, "You're one of us." That La'an is the character most thoroughly unraveled by this experience is not incidental. Christina Chong has spent more than 3 seasons building a performance defined by controlled competence. The Griffin Incident is the first time the show has fully cracked that control open. Her transformation over the episode's back half, culminating in an attack on Kirk with the same dagger Harper wielded, is genuinely unsettling, precisely because Chong has made La'an someone whose composure has always felt hard-won rather than natural. Watching that composure disintegrate carries real weight. This is some of the best work Christina Chong has done across the entire series, and the show finally gives her the material to prove it. Pike's response to La'an afterward is the episode's most humane gesture. He declines to include her breakdown in his official report. "The only thing that matters," he tells her, "is that you survived." It is exactly the kind of leadership this show has built Pike's character around. Anson Mount continues to demonstrate why he is one of the most essential performers in this franchise, because even in an episode that isn't primarily about him, his presence steadies everything about it. Now, this episode does not push past the boundaries of what Star Trek has traditionally been willing to show. This is recognizably still a ghost ship story in a tradition the franchise has visited before. But the execution here is sharper, scarier, and more character specific than the format typically allows. What the Griffin Incident ultimately accomplishes is more than a scary hour of television. It uses genre horror to crack open exactly the characters that this penultimate season needs cracked open. Kirk's complicated relationship to fatherhood and presence, Spock's ongoing negotiation between his human and Vulcan halves, and La'an, whose mental state remains, by the episode's own admission, a worrisome place. If the Griffin Incident is any indication, Star Trek Strange New Worlds is more than willing to go to genuinely dark places to get its characters where they need to be by the time we meet them again in Star Trek's original series. This is Star Trek remembering that the final frontier can just as easily be internal as external, and that sometimes the scariest thing in space is what a person finds when they're finally alone with themselves. Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 4 continues on Paramount Plus, so let me know in the comments. Was this the scariest episode Star Trek has ever produced? And what do you think is happening to La'an? And of course, don't forget to subscribe to Fandom Frontline for more reviews as the season continues.